Not a sound you want to hear in the middle of the night.
I would call it a Goldilocks kind of scenario. I lived in a dumpster, 33 square feet, not very comfortable.
Turn in here.
Then I lived in a massive house, about 350 square feet, that was very comfortable, permitted to be in backyards, whatever. It was almost like played by too many rules. It was too nice, it was too expensive, it was too large. And so I kind of feel like this is the sort of Goldilocks scenario where it's just right. It sort of is small and nimble like a dumpster and inexpensive, but it's really nice and sort of high-end feel like a Kasita. And also just playing by every single rule as we had to in Kasita, but not breaking so many rules that we did in the dumpster. I think we're finding that middle ground that hopefully can lead to a real solution in living and housing. But in a very technical sense, Jupe isn't really so much what's above the floor, but what's in and of the floor. Yeah, so walking into the unit, we can use our imagination here that there are walls. You'll notice all of this stuff is included that you need to set up and rent one of these out or stay in one for a night. All of the track lighting is here, including the switches. You've got all of your storage containers, but even better, you've got all of your solar here, all of your equipment for your off-grid operation. And then you've got an actual bed frame. You've got the actual mattress. You've got your headboard and really everything you need to set up and be going in a little bit over an hour. Everything from the foundation to even buying the bed and the mattress, it's just all in the box. Think about all of the most difficult things in housing. It is not just sort of framing up the walls, right? It's the mechanical, it's electrical, it's the plumbing, it's the transport, it's the foundation, it's the permitting. We basically tried to build a platform, a system that takes all of that away. This is like a tiny house version of the gigafactory. It's a very small gigafactory. It might be called a micro factory, actually. This is our original sign, global headquarters. Let's go into the factory space. This is our 10,000 square foot facility. We moved in about a year ago with nothing. Now we're manufacturing about a unit every day and a half. So here is one that's been in process for only about a day. A day ago, this entire chassis looked more like this. So this is actually 2 Jupes that have come in, CNC'd, that can be assembled in about a day and a half with 3 people. So you think about a typical prefab, like modular construction, you're talking 30, 45 days. Well, if we can figure out how to shrink that down, plus get to this very small facility where, we can store 20 or 30 of them in here, you just save a lot of things by doing that. The volumetric way of building housing has just proven not to work. There are a lot of reasons for that, but one of the core things is how fast can you manufacture something, at what cost, and how fast can you move it around at what cost. And so the idea was that let's not build an entire home. Let's build a chassis that has all the organs of the home.
2, 3. Yeah!
and something that will flat pack, like an auto chassis. You probably have heard that a Toyota Camry is on the same chassis as like a Lexus 400. They sit on that same thing.
And that's how babies are made.
The idea was to make that thing. So this is our standard building block, and it's about 18 inches or so high by 8.5 by 13. Now those dimensions are very important because by having 13 feet long, you can go into a 40-foot container, you can go onto a 40-foot truck. So we can go 3 long, and right now we can go as high as 5. So all the superstructure, including these poles, the solar panels, everything ships in here. Basically, when this thing shows up, you pull your solar panels out. You basically do all of this to get power on in your home. You're done. What this also allows us to do is to begin to embed things into the floor. We have some of the off-grid equipment here, right? And this is just our first example of what we call a tile, a modular tile, of what we can do with these different sort of spaces, right? So the next thing we're working on is a refrigeration tile, and then we're gonna start working on the water. So we have a prototype of a bathroom that actually we can fit some of the technology down into this box. And then we can do whatever we want on top. These corners are like extremely rigid and engineered to take all kinds of forces in all kinds of directions. This is a different superstructure, right, than the one that we sell sitting on those 4 corners. It's a universal joint there for any kind of superstructure. If we wanted to have 4 corners that hooked into SIP panels, we could do that. If we wanted to have a ledge that came across those corners that we stick built on top of, we could do that. So you would treat this like a slab on grade, yet this would be like the foundation that you were drilling into. So this 18 inches acts as the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing, the actual foundation. So you don't need any of that stuff anymore. And what that also does, it also may be a lot easier to permit, right? If you've got 6 little feet touching the ground and no utility connections and can pick that up literally in an hour and move it, then why should you require all kinds of crazy permits for that? And so that's the big leap, that's the big idea. It's not about having a super sexy, Cybertruck lit up looking canvas on top. It's flex, it's agile supply housing. So you're able to drag and drop whatever type of shelter you need, when and where you need it.
Over there off the hill.
A large wildfire came through here about 11 months ago.
It's just sequoias. They just survived.
Is it sequoia? Put it in.
The customer, Wallace, wanted to sort of honor that, but also create a almost stealth sort of configuration here.
That's the thing with black ones. A couple of them.
And it's really cool in that he wanted them designed as part of the land, not separate. Are you siblings?
Yeah, we're siblings.
All of you? And how old are you? I'm 14. 14, wow. So you would remember then maybe.
We refer to this 50-mile stretch of coast in Central California as the slow coast.
Taller than your age, because there's 7 billion people in the world.
And the name partly references our proximity. Literally over those mountains, you're in Silicon Valley. We call that Fast Valley because it's literally the fastest valley in the world. You're just over the hill from Apple and Facebook and all the other, big corporations. But you don't feel that. You feel the quiet. You just come over the mountains and there's no cell service. There's barely a gas station. These beautiful redwood trees. You just have to slow down. We picked this spot after we did a trek from Oregon to Mexico. We walked for 4 months. It was about 1,800 kilometers, and we had our 1-year-old daughter, and we decided this is where we want to put down our roots. So the house right here, we would be walking in the back door of the house and into the kitchen. Right out through that gap in the wall is how you would get out to the meadow. So those chairs, those Adirondack chairs, were out in that meadow, and they were the only things remaining in this canyon. Almost a year ago, there was a beautiful lightning storm. The lightning hit the earth in 10,000 places. Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. Started 600 fires, and one of them came right down over the ridge, right up the canyon, and took out many of our neighbors, took out our home. Really just a powerful fire that left no doubts.
They were all caged.
Yeah, no, just
Branches like to
ash
for the needle.
It's Rowley's house. Whole canyon burned. There's no defending our home in any way, shape, or form. No way to, nothing left. Tool shed. Glad I didn't stay to fight it, because that wouldn't have gone well. Wheelbarrow, log splitter. That was our little hut, little Quonset hut. It's gone. And of course, our home right there. Nothing left. A pile of metal and rock. We built a home out of recycled Doug fir and big wide planks, floors, and big beams and high ceilings, and it's kind of a dream. We loved it, and it raised our kids. And it was very beautiful while it was here, and I honor the home that raised my daughters. But it's also, I can look back now and say the version of myself that built this home very solidly to last for generations was a very arrogant person. I thought I'm going to build this stout house of beams and stone and old growth wood that will resist changes and be here, be a solid place for my great grandkids to live in. And it's gone. Literally where I'm standing was our home. There's that wall, and there's very little else to suggest that there was ever a house here. And so in thinking about what's next, there's an impermanence that I'm embracing. There's a Jupe up there. There was a cabin up there. So we had our home down here and then a cabin up there that my brother lived in. That's just a beautiful spot. It's just a nice perch to kind of see the whole canyon from. And it's kind of right here, but it hides a little bit up there. And you might go right down this road and not even see it. And so we picked that spot. And then kind of a flat spot back there by the creek in that little grove of redwoods. Just seemed like a natural area for spending time.
And so you just kind of thought, I need to rethink what a house or shelter,
Yeah.
not even a house,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and rethink home. And we're in a different stage in our lives as a family. Our kids are 16 and 19. So what does that look like? We've got this 20 acres and spreading the Jupes out among the 20 acres. So, up on the hill and then down by the creek and another one over there. And it feels right. It feels like a better idea of a home. And then, we'll put a kitchen area and a bathing area back over there. And we're even talking about a trailer with a sauna on it.
It's interesting because now it seems like your home is many homes, right?
Yeah. Well, our home is this place. It's this forest. And now, but it's also a blank creative slate of these burnt, beautiful old trees. These tents, the beauty of them is they're very inviting to go inside and sleep, but they kick you out. Like they're not meant to just hang out in there all day. Big door says, go outside. Like home is not in here, it's out there. So while they are comfortable, it's not about that, it's about that.
From a permitting perspective, we're trying to take all the pain away. And so this was basically designed with a pretty good understanding of all of the ways that structures are coded and permitted. So part of it is around square footage. It's under 200 square feet. Some municipalities consider that a shed. It has no foundation. It is not plugged into the grid in any way. It is not a permanent structure. Let's hop inside. It has a canvas superstructure. We have these little windows here. And I'll reach up here and just let that fold down. What this allows you to do is not only just set up quicker, but in many places it is as permittable, maybe more permittable than even a tent. Go that way. Okay, hide in one of those things.
More than a tent.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, there are places where they say no tents. Oh my God, it's a magic box. Your sister disappeared. And she's hiding under the bed.
Wait.
I don't really know what this is. The first question was, what is this, right? And it's more than a tent and less than a spaceship, probably. Try these big ones.
Hello. Now I want to go in there. Hello. We're coming in.
We try not to store people or animals here, but we can store all the linens. Here's sheets. We are also modularizing all this so that we can drop a fridge in there. We can eventually drop a black water tank. We can put an AC, a heater, really anything can go inside these. So here's the entire solar kit that has two big 200 amp hour batteries underneath it. And you can see it's charging right here, the photovoltaics. And so you've got an inverter. And then on this side, we have the human battery system. That one just stays down there. We have these fantastic end tables. So when it's flat packed, the end tables fit in there. And then these are also serve multiple functions. You know, you can hang out on a bench and they're super, super sturdy. Like, I mean, you can, yeah. So this porch, it is the same dimensions as the Jupe. So everything is that dimension. It gives you a kit of parts, a set of tools to dial in a comfortable living situation. So what is cool is that everything's integrated, right? It drops and it's immediately livable.
So it basically doesn't need much foundation either.
No, there's no foundation, right? So this is what's cool is we will leave this space with no trace left behind. So there's no foundation, there's no utility drags, there's not even any piles or earth screws. We haven't even penetrated the earth here. So we just use these redwood logs. They're very happy to be in the action again. But on a flat surface, we just have some leveling feet here that after we drop it, we can self-level out the foundation. So we don't need the blocks. And then this can just be picked up and be gone in an hour, right? The whole thing. So this is why Wallace wanted this product here. It's because should a wildfire come through again, the one that caused him to lose his house here on this property, we could come pick these things up either with a forklift or with a bunch of people and move them out to that meadow where those chairs actually survived.
If we were in evac mode, we would gather all of the Jupes in the middle of the meadow and get everything very wet, possibly even a flame retardant tarp. And then maybe it's a near miss, maybe it's catastrophic, but then we're ready to deploy the Jupes back to their spots.
When do you think things change? Because you're saying we have to rethink how we build housing. We have to be more responsive to the changing.
You know, I think things changed for me, certainly in response to the fire, but I've been thinking about a lot of these bigger ideas for a while, and I think everybody's on their own path.
But I think it's not most people's reaction.
No, I think a lot of people, their first reaction is, we're going to rebuild better and bigger and stronger and more, and it's the insurance payout and then the permit process and then we'll do it better than we did because now there's this and that and the other thing. And I don't feel that way at all. I feel like it's time to leap ahead into a future that's more compatible with the changing world that we have and that's coming. So for each person, there's kind of a personal moment of maybe crisis is what it takes, or epiphany. And I hadn't thought about fire all that much. Just being in awe of wildfire as a force that shapes the ecological aspects of our planet and our history.
Because fire is a big part of the redwood forest, right?
Yeah. So these redwoods actually, I'm going to say they love the fire, but in a redwoody kind of way, they need it. They ride it out, and it clears the understory. Their bark is blackened, but they're alive through it, and they immediately start setting up these little shoots of new growth that are just everywhere in this forest. They look like new redwood trees, but they're this redwood tree, and this redwood tree is the same tree as this tree, the same tree as that tree and that tree, because they grew out of a previous crisis, which was the clear cutting of the old growth trees. So you have these huge stumps that were cut to rebuild San Francisco 100 years ago, and that wood was taken out of here, and that tree said, okay, wow, ouch, we're not stopping, and it grew these. So each of these big stumps has a ring of enormous but smaller trees around it. And now that's happening kind of again, you know, with this fire. These trees are responding with life. And you see they're greening up top, but they're getting so green down here. And the awesome thing about these is you pull the tips off and eat them. And they're really tasty. So this is one of the big trees that was cut, this stump. There's another one. Some of them are 8 meters across. Here, this whole thing here. So, you know, you go from here, 1, 2, 3, 4 meters in this case, this tree, and these 2 trees are this tree. And that's just how it responded to being cut off at, you know, 8 feet up. It shot these up, and it took 100 years to make them. And now this tree, experiencing the trauma of fire, is putting these beauties out. But also you can see it's getting green up there. And by next year, other than the blackness of the trunk, you'll be hard pressed to know that that tree has been through a massive event like this.
Computer, turn Jupe lights on. I have slept in Jupes for the last 10 nights in 4 different locations. I slept right here last night. This was where I slept. So come on in. This is my favorite number from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I keep this box to remind us of our kind of ultimate goal. The end goal of this company is to make the crazy ass assumption that one day we can house that many people, 100 million. That's a lot of Jupes. But you think about the number of cars that are made every year, and you think about how fast we should theoretically be able to make them, and that's still a fraction of like the 1.6 billion people on the planet that don't have adequate housing. So people look at the Jupe and this jewel-looking, high-end hospitality box is not really the end goal. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to essentially give away Jupes at no upfront cost to landowners and then split the revenue from nightly rentals. The end goal is to build out this chassis technology to make housing really simple, really inexpensive, and create some sort of new era where this can happen.